Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today, this isn't the world, son, this is New South Wales. I'm going to do a two-parter associated with the Stoner Sloth movement, but I wanted to start off talking about New South Wales. When I lived in Australia, I never lived in New South Wales. I lived in Canberra, Australia, for a majority of my time in Australia, which is like a little island. It's almost a bit like DC in the centre of Maryland, except New South Wales is like the largest state in Australia. And while Canberra, the Australian Capital Territory as it's formally known, has like 3 times as many laws as any other location in Australia, New South Wales just always struck me as kind of corrupt, not really interested in, resolving the corruption, kind of stuck together by corruption, in fact. Folks who've run the gauntlet of Short Funk podcasts will be familiar with the situation with Colin Winchester. And one of the curious things about New South Wales was, Canberra and Adelaide, South Australia, decriminalised cannabis, in 1993, so 3 years before medical cannabis reached California. New South Wales always had these draconian cannabis laws, and I speculated when I lived there, and it's easy to make the same speculation now. It was in large part because sections of the police force actually made sizable quantities of money through payoffs and other things associated with cannabis's criminalisation. There are accounts through my childhood of areas of New South Wales where they literally moved cannabis around in pots through various stages. There was all this stuff associated with the mafia and the police. It was all very inside and all very curious. And this comes in narrative form at the same time that I think it's only 3. The school, the family, the party. School, family, party. Yes, I think it covers all important facts in young adolescents' lives. They released this anti-cannabis video where I don't know what one would call it, the lead participant is supposed to be a teenager who's stoned, that's represented by a very curious-looking sloth-like creature. And this thing blew up over the past few days. Wide variety of folks contacting me because I'm the token Australian, asking me associated with, is this for real? Does it represent anything? And New South Wales is just such a curious place that the Stoner Sloth movement captures just an element of that. When I used to travel around New South Wales, I got a grant from the Australian Film Commission for my project Noble Ape, and New South Wales Sydney more importantly, I had to travel to every couple of months. So I could meet with the fellow who, was part of the Australian Film Commission, who got me my grant, or at least who had worked through the grant process. He appeared very briefly in the film Shine. A little interesting factoid for your listening pleasure. When I got the Australian Film Commission grant, I was also a university student, and I had a specific card called an International Student Card, which outside Australia, and even in parts of Australia, I could get student discounts when I travelled on public transport. So when I came to buy a train ticket in Sydney with my International Student Card, I put it down, and the rail person behind the counter said to me, "This isn't the world, son. This is New South Wales," which I think captured every element associated with New South Wales for me. My mother lives in New South Wales. She lives in Sydney. When I go back to Australia, a portion of my time is spent in New South Wales. But I certainly don't consider it civilization, and it's beautiful, because I say these things about Australia and some people just don't believe me. They don't listen. They don't get a sense that I might be telling the truth. I mean, it is a Tom Barbalet story after all. But to have these little bits, these little clips of information come out and invade the world consciousness on the internet associated with, the interesting thing about the Stoner Sloth videos is they're basically about bullying. And they're also about bullying associated potentially with, mental deterioration, perhaps mental illness, these kind of things. It seems very easy just to pick on people. Quintessentially, I think that's the intellectual level of the bureaucracy in New South Wales. Now, truth be told, when I go back to Australia, when I watch the news, which is something that Australians do, I feel genuinely like leaving Australia was the best possible thing I could do. And we may have some listeners that live in New South Wales. And maybe this will turn them against listening to Short Funk in the future. If you are that listener, please get in contact with me. So I'm always interested to hear from listeners that might have a different perspective associated with the things that I talk about on Short Funk. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.